What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from the quartering, battling my way through the flu. Sorry, I'm running a little bit late today, but I'll have our normal 4 to 5 videos for all of you, including a hilarious Ethan Klein backfire. Apparently, I'm living exceedingly well in his head, rent-free. I had no idea how often he is obsessing over my comments and videos, and apparently my wife. We'll get to that second today. You're not going to want to miss that. But before we get into that, more out of the Joe Rogan interview with Mr. Beast, including them calling out TikTok as well as woke Hollywood's destruction of the comedy film. This is something that we're all pretty aware of on this channel, but it's important to acknowledge when people with huge platforms and audiences, maybe like Mr. Beast, who aren't exactly plugged into some of the bad things that TikTok does. Look, if you use TikTok, I'm not going to villainize people for that. I mean, you're trying to reach people. Just know exactly kind of what you're getting into when you use it. And then that's one thing. If you're informed on it and you use it, that's fine. If you don't know and you're using it and you might be concerned about what they do with your data, well, then I think it's probably an important thing to get updated on. Joe Rogan and Mr. Beast accused TikTok of spying on them. Mr. Beast is a giant in the YouTube community, a prolific 23-year-old. Jeez, wow. Old content wizard has conquered the platform. Essentially, I'd agree with that. Sitting with a comfortable 91.5 million subs, actually close to 200 million with all of his second language channels. During the March 7th episode of the Spotify-hosted JRE, Joe Rogan and Mr. Beast got stuck into a discussion on just that, breaking down his immense popularity and whether the success on YouTube leads to success on other platforms. During the discussion, Mr. Beast went on to say that his focus is pretty defined. 90% of my work goes into YouTube, 1 to 2% into TikTok. Rogan responded by saying he doesn't have a deliberate presence on TikTok, but it's something that he may look into doing. I guess there's a certain point I should step in and do something on TikTok, but TikTok is very sketchy. Letting loose on the topic, Rogan and Jimmy went back and forth on stories on how they felt about the app's alleged open door into the back end of your phone. Rogan asked, you ever see the breakdown of these software engineers have done on TikTok of how intrusive it is? Clarifying the statement, he said the engineers declared it to be, quote, the single most disturbing piece of software they've ever had to engineer. The amount of cross-platform spying that it does. Now, if you need to use TikTok, let's say to try and get your content out there and things of that nature, you could have a secondary phone that is only like connected to Wi-Fi and not connected to anything else. I mean, it sounds crazy to say up front, like, oh, just buy another phone. But to be honest with you, most of us have another phone that we aren't using anymore. An old phone, the last model. You could use one of those. Just, reboot, do a factory reset, connect it to your Wi-Fi and use it that way. That's actually something I would recommend if you wanted to use these type of apps to try and reach an audience. I still think that you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak, and that if you can, even I have dabbled in trying to reach people on TikTok because it's such a massive platform full of Zoomers that there has to be some interest in non-insane content. I mean, there are a lot of guys and girls on there that have very normie content, barbecue content, cooking content, political commentary, and they do well. So it'd be stupid to just ignore it from a business perspective. But you can also be very smart about it and not have it hooked up to your phone and, into all of your various processes and backends. Mr. Beast went on to state that as he travels, TikTok will always know where he is. If you travel to a different state, like even now in Texas, my TikTok feed will be a lot more of Texas content. It's definitely location-based. Closing out his thoughts on the app, Jimmy did say that he had recently deleted the app from his phone, but not for security purposes. TikTok can be pretty addicting. I actually recently uninstalled it just because even though my TikTok is mostly like gym and actually finance stuff, I found I was spending like 2 hours a day on TikTok. That's why I uninstalled it. And quite frankly, this is exactly why Mr. Beast is as successful as he is. He recognized the time suck that was TikTok was for him. You only have so many hours a day to be productive. I mean, sure, you can work 15 hours a day or something like that, but you're only really peaking for a few hours of that. Like, you're really getting stuff done for a couple hours of that. You can grind and, you know, doing editing and stuff like that. But when you're really making strategic decisions, you can't be doing that all day. And so if you're burning up time on apps, you only have so much time to make smart decisions. They also went on in the very same episode, Joe Rogan went on to say that wokeness destroyed comedy movies. I can't remember the last time he even laughed out loud at a film. The joke and about political correctness has always been that you couldn't make Blazing Saddles today. The band SR-71 even wrote a song about it back in 2000. Blazing Saddles is a classic Mel Brooks movie that makes fun of racists. By 2022 standards, a movie made back in the 70s couldn't make it seem serious enough. Even though it's a comedy, wokeness has killed the comedy movie genre. Murdered it, says Joe Rogan. I'd agree with that. I mean, look at the comedy that we actually get now. It's like quips and sarcasm, which are forms of comedy, but like, it's always so safe and formulaic. It's not just wokeness that has really destroyed cinema, in my opinion. It's the Marvel movie. It's the formulaic profit first system in place where Hollywood and big studios just aren't taking risks on indie films. They're not taking risks on a film that could be a classic when they can just do a reboot and change the skin color of everybody in it, or, you know, or like gender swap a character and burn up an old IP. Now, here, Tom Papa, he discusses with Tom Papa, like, I'll just play a little clip of this.
It's like, what was the last good comedy movie that was released? It used to be you would be able to, something about Mary,
right?
You know, Kingpin. You could just snap them off.
No.
By the way, two classics. There's something about Mary is a little kind of like, I don't know if it would age well or not. I'd have to rewatch it. Kingpin's a classic. I'll say that.
You knew who they were. It's like wokeness killed the comedy movie in a lot of ways.
It did. People, they're not making them.
What was the last great comedy movie?
The Last Step Brothers?
No, there's been some other ones.
Since
what was the
then?
one where it was the end of the world? It was James Franco and Seth Rogen and the fucking volcanoes and shit was happening. And
what's the one where the house party goes out of control?
This is the end.
This is the end. This is
Oh,
the
this
end was
is the
good.
end?
What
Yeah,
year was
it was
that?
good.
2013.
This is the end was not that good. It was basically like all of those guys kind of like mailing it in for performance. I'm not saying it was terrible, but it was nothing to write home about. It was like so over the top and unfun. Like, it got like, oh, okay, we get it. You know, we get it. The studios aren't afraid of whether or not they'd have a market. They would definitely have a market. But how many people would get canceled because of it? How many people would get attacked because of it? How bad would the studio get protested? When was the last great comedy movie? I mean, I don't know. I guess it would depend, you know, how you define it. You know, Jackass 4 came out. That's physical comedy for the most part. I mean, there's pranks and stuff like that. It was okay. Not memorable, because it basically was a rehash of all the old gags just done by people we don't really care about nowadays. Like, new actors who are younger could take the punishment. But, like, there has been... It's crazy that there was this era, but maybe we're looking at it with, like, rose-colored glasses. Like, there definitely was an era of the comedy movie where, like, there were bangers every year. Even you could go back to, like... You know, I don't even know if these movies hold up, but, like, back when Adam Sandler had a soul, you know, like Waterboy and like Billy Madison. I guess on the list, Step Brothers is probably up there. Although I'd say with Step Brothers, they made, is this crazy to say this, but it was like too many jokes. By like halfway through the movie, I had like run out of things to laugh at because it was just so many gags and so many jokes nonstop. Or like the second half of the movie, I was just kind of burned out on laughing. But I mean, like, I guess that's like, you know, That's the way it is. Now all we get is like ironic quips. Somewhat related is the lockdowns. Ending movies outright. I have a hard time thinking of the last movie I saw, let alone the last good one. Spider-Man Far From Home, or whatever, No Way Home. That was okay. It was not okay. It was good. The Batman was good. That's probably it. I'm more into watching older TV shows. Like, I'm rewatching The X-Files right now. I'm up to like season 4. There's some real classics. People say the show kind of ended after season 3. I disagree. There's been some really good episodes. Season 4, episode 2 is a classic. With like all the inbred people in that house. Get Him the Greek, as I've mentioned before, stars Russell Brand, Rose Byrne. Brand played a rock star, Alda Snow, who would be accused of being terrible by 2022 standards. The Internship with Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson. These are all old, though. When was the last laugh out loud movie you remember seeing? Honestly, you'd have to qualify that as, what is the last new... I mean, I laughed out loud at Jackass. Definitely did. But for like a different reason. Physical comedy is, you know, like a nutshot's always funny. But, you know, he's not wrong.
2013.
I wouldn't say great comedy.
But that's still 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that might be
Yeah.
that might be the last.
I know.
The last of the Mohicans.
Yeah, it's weird. What was the one where the house party goes out of control?
Project.
Like a great comedy.
For sure.
Without, you
But
know
it's
what I
not
mean?
just that. It's like all abhorrent behavior.
Right.
Like it's not an endorsement. Like
Right.
if you have a movie, like
Right.
here's an example of like American Psycho. American Psycho, you could do that movie today, and
Mm-hmm.
it wouldn't be an endorsement of a person who's a serial killer.
Right.
It would just be a film about.
I think the point Joe is making here is that, yeah, you just can't make that movie nowadays because movies live by a different set of standards. You used to laugh at really offensive characters, like the stuff Billy Madison did, or, you know, even Al Bundy by modern standards would be canceled. But like, that was the joke, is that like he was so offensive that it was funny. That's the joke, that you just couldn't ever really do that in real life. But nowadays, movies are held to this like ridiculous standard where everything must be also an endorsement of that bad behavior. That's more damaging to comedy in and of itself. I'll be interested to see. Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below. When's the last fun laugh out loud movie you saw? Maybe we'll get some good recommendations going down there. If you haven't yet, there's a red subscribe button down below the video. I'd absolutely love if you click that. It helps you find the channel. YouTube definitely buries my videos. It lets YouTube know that sometimes people actually want to see what I put out, and I would be greatly appreciative. Hope you enjoyed this video. We'll talk to you again real soon.